What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have our first team preview for the 2025 season, and we're talking about the Alabama Crimson Tide. Obviously right now it's a little early to give a full breakdown for the 2025 season, as so much can change between now and even the spring, especially after the spring game and that spring window opens. A lot of players can leave, but Alabama can also go get a lot of impact players in the portal. So with that, it's just going to be a quick preview. We're going to go through the depth chart and then we're going to hit the schedule, as you can see on the screen. So with that, let's get right into it. Now, obviously, Alabama has one of the most explosive players in college football. You have Ryan Williams coming back at wide receiver. He's probably the second best receiver in college football, probably only behind Jeremiah Smith, in my opinion. And then you have Jeremy Bernard, Isaiah Horton, two impact guys that I project to be starters. But another very intriguing thing here, you have Jalen Mbakwe, who is a five-star athlete coming out of high school. He played defensive back last year as a true freshman. They're going to experiment him on the offensive side of the ball, which I think is very good for Alabama. I mean, the reward has to outweigh the risk, in my opinion, with Jalen Mbakwe playing on offense. Then you also have Rico Scott and Jalen Hale. We saw Rico Scott at the end of the season. I'd say he made the most of his opportunity. And then Derek Meadows is the last guy I put on there. He was a near five-star recruit. He was one of the best receivers coming out of high school in the 2025 class. He's a big body receiver, and I think he's going to push for some playing time, depending on when he's enrolling and how his offseason goes. Offensive line, you have Caden Proctor, who's one of the best offensive linemen in college football. You get Parker Brailsford back, and Cam Dewberry, a transfer from Texas A&M. Jaden Roberts and Welcome Formby project to fill out the rotation. But you also have Michael Carroll, who is a five-star offensive guard in the 2025 class. I'm not sure he's going to find a starting spot, but for depth purposes, I think he's a good option because probably 90% of schools would have him starting headed into this year. I think he's that college ready. And at tight end, you have Josh Cuevas and Danny Lewis Jr. You also have Caleb Edwards, another highly rated recruit in the 2025 class. I think the biggest question mark for Alabama headed into 2025 is the quarterback position, and it probably is going to have the biggest impact on how the season goes for them. Ty Simpson, many expect him to take the starting job. He was a former five-star, and I mean, he really hasn't had the opportunity to show what he's capable of. But behind him, you have Austin Mack, who followed Kalen DeBoer from Washington. Austin Mack's a really good quarterback, and there's a lot of teams that would probably take him as their starter. But then you also have Keelan Russell, who is a five-star quarterback. He's a true freshman. I had him number 2 in my recruiting rankings. A lot of people are very high on him, and I think he is going to play a part. I don't think he's going to win the job, obviously. He is a true freshman. This is Alabama, but I think you got to like this quarterback room. I think Ty Simpson, it's his job to lose, and I think that's a good thing. Ty Simpson, he's an underrated runner, so I am going to give him like the dual threat label, which is good for Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer historically has been very good with dual threat quarterbacks. I know Jalen Milroe, it didn't go the way everyone wanted. But before Michael Penix is like the biggest outlier here, because when Kalen DeBoer was at the lower levels coaching, he always had a dual threat quarterback, and his teams were known for running the football. So Ty Simpson, yes, he's a very good thrower, but he can also run the ball very effective, and I think that's going to be big for Alabama going forward. And then at running back, you guys have Jam Miller and Richard Young, who I expect to battle for the starting position. With Justice Haynes leaving, I think that opens the door for Richard Young. It was interesting to see Haynes be the guy to leave. Obviously, you expected him to stay since he was the starter. But yeah, what's new? We have a five-star running back at Alabama just waiting for his opportunity. And I think Richard Young's going to make the most of it. I mean, this is a very talented kid coming out of high school, and we've seen glimpses of what he can be. And obviously, I'm rooting for the best. And yeah, the sky's the limit for this running back room. I mean, if Jam Miller continues to take another step forward, Richard Young steps into his full form, I mean, there's a lot of good things that can happen there. And now let's flip it over to defense. I mean, LT Overton, nothing more to be said. I mean, him coming back, not going to the draft is a big time deal for Alabama. I mean, he's probably going to be the best player on this defense. Not only him coming back, I mean, you have Deontay Lawson at linebacker coming back as well, which is big time. And then you also have a lot of young guys that are finally going to get their shot, and a lot of very talented guys. I mean, look at James Smith and Quay Russaw. I mean, these two are just freaks at their positions. They played high school football together. Overall, this front four is going to be lethal. When you have Keon Keeley, he's all the way back here. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, obviously, he can play a lot more than what I had projected. I kind of just built the depth chart based on everything I saw from like Alabama people or other people making depth charts, like what their intel was. So obviously, Keon Keeley, I mean, this is another highly rated player coming out of high school. And if he does get an opportunity to play, and if he is ready to play, I mean, you have to assume he's going to be a big impact guy and help this defense a lot. The secondary, you have Xavier Brown, Damani Jackson, Keon Sabb, and then Red Morgan. I know Alabama fans are really high on Red Morgan, and I think that's for a good reason. And we also talked about Jalen Mbakwe on offense, but on defense too. I mean, he could easily play safety, corner, really whatever you want him to do. Yeah, overall, this defense is very talented. Even though they did lose a lot of guys, I mean, they still have a lot of key pieces back. I mean, if this isn't one of the best defenses in college football, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions then about the coaching staff at Alabama, because this is a lot of talent to work with. I mean, there's a lot of teams that would trade their team, their defense for what Alabama has. Yeah, I think the expectations are reasonable, and those are very high. All right, now for the schedule. Week 1 at Florida State. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this. Alabama, Florida State, non-conference. These two teams did play in 2017. If you remember, it was the opening game in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I think it was DeAndre Francois versus Jalen Hurts. I mean, it was probably one of the most hyped opening games to a college football season that I can remember. And yeah, I think this one's going to be no different. And it is a road game. I think this is huge for Alabama. Florida State's not going to be as bad as they were last year. This isn't going to be a cakewalk game, but I do expect Alabama to win. Then you have ULM. That's obviously going to be a win. Wisconsin. Now, last year's game was close at the beginning, and then we kind of saw the difference in athlete on Alabama and Wisconsin. I think we're going to see that in this game, probably for the full game. So I have Alabama winning that one as well. And then you have your bye week. And then you go and play at Georgia, which is going to be just a huge game. And at this point in time, I mean, yeah, Georgia's team's like really good, but like, what's their offense going to look like, you know? I mean, they didn't have good receivers last year. I know they got some guys in the portal. Gunnar Stockton is the quarterback. You lose Etienne. Nate Frazier's a really good running back. I mean, you have to like how Alabama matches up here, right? I mean, if Ty Simpson is the dude at quarterback and he wins the job like decisively, you have to assume this is going to be a good game and a game that Alabama can win. And then after that, you play Vanderbilt. And this is the revenge game for last year. Diego Pavia. This time it's in Tuscaloosa, so you have a lot going for you there if you're Alabama. I expect them to get things done. And then at Missouri, I mean, this could be an interesting game. Missouri's going to be a good football team again this year, but at the same time, right? I mean, this Alabama team has a lot of talent, and Missouri's offense, we don't know what it's going to look like. You lose Luther Burden, and even when you had Luther Burden, the offense wasn't that great, and Alabama put a beating on you last year. So we're going to have to see if things are different this time. Tennessee, same thing. Alabama going to get another shot at the Vols, this time at home, and I think they're going to take advantage of that. I mean, Tennessee right now, I'm not really sure who Nico's going to be throwing the ball to. So yeah, you have to like how things line up there for Alabama. Then at South Carolina, this could be one of the best games of the season in college football. Alabama at South Carolina. The expectations for both teams are very high. This is certainly a game I'm looking forward to. And then they have a bye week, and then you have LSU. And I mean, it doesn't get better than this. Alabama, LSU, and Bryant-Denny Stadium. And then you have Oklahoma. You're home for that one as well. Eastern Illinois. I mean, that's going to be a win. But then you have at Auburn. This game's at Jordan-Hare Stadium. And Auburn, just like South Carolina, this is going to be a tough game. You're playing on the road against a team that's very high expectations. And as always, the Iron Bowl's probably a toss-up. No matter how good, how bad one team is, the games are usually good. Yeah, I think you have to like how this schedule lines up for Alabama. You have a bye week before Georgia, which is huge. But then you also have a bye week after South Carolina, and then before LSU. So you have a tough stretch. You have Missouri, Tennessee, South Carolina. Then you get a bye week before another stretch when you have LSU, Oklahoma, and then the Iron Bowl 2 weeks after that. So yeah, Alabama fans, let me know down below what you guys think of the team headed into 2025, what your overall expectations are. And I'm sure I'm going to do another team preview for Alabama. I'm probably going to do a team preview for just about every team that I do one for in the spring, just because it's so early and a lot of things can change. Yeah, let me know what your guys' team record is going to be. I mean, looking at the schedule, you have to assume 10 wins is the expectation here, and I think that's pretty reasonable. But yeah, let me know down below. And before you guys head out, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you on the next video.